My understanding of Zionism is that Zionism is just the understanding that Israel should exist and should fight, be able to fight against its enemies for its ability to exist. And to me, Zionism is just Israeli nationalism, and I support Indian nationalism. I support Indian patriotism. I support every country's patriotic sentiments and nationalistic movements as long as it's civic nationalism, right? Civic nationalism. So, because it's really easy for me to be pro Zionism because I support every country's ability to continue to exist. And Israel is one of those countries, one of every country that exists. So, because Israel is a subcategory of all the countries that I support their ability to continue to exist, and Zionism is basically the definition of that, is the for you to support Israel's ability to continue to exist. And I'm using the word ability instead of right on purpose because I don't know if rights is the because when I use the word rights, I think right is something that is given by nation states, and I'm not willing to yet recognize the authority of any law-giving body above a nation state. So that's why I think rights are a subcategory within nation states. So that's why I say ability instead of right. So I support Israel's ability to continue to exist. Because if it's a right, I don't know who's the right giver above a nation state. To me, when it comes to it from an international perspective, you need to gain the power to be able to fight for your existence. So it's the ability to exist, right? But that's a different conversation. And for India, I will support the same thing. For example, I'm very much against the Indian separatist groups. I'm very much against all of them because they're challenging the border integrity of India. And I'm very much against them. I consider them to be terrorist groups. And I support India's actions against those groups. I don't know if so by the way, I have Hindutva fans and I have certain people within Hindutva that I like. I just don't if you want me to say I support Hindutva, you need to give me a definition of Hindutva. And I could say whether or not I will support what your so I've seen so many things from Hindutva, from people who say this is Hindutva that I do not support. And I've seen so many things by people who say they're Hindutva that I do support. So whether or not I will I started supporting Zionism once I got a clear understanding of what it means. And for me to say I'm against or for Hindutva, I need to get a definition of it. So how do you define Hindutva in a simple
Why was
definition?
it? Why was it? Okay, so for there's two definitions I would see of Hindutva, but the original one, the one you should probably take as the main definition of Hindutva, was made by a man who is considered as the father of the Hindutva ideology,
Just give
Vinayak
just give
Damodar.
me a definition, just because I want to
Vinayak
go like
Damodar
just what
Savarkar said. For Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, who himself identified more as an atheist, he believed that Hindu is an ethnic term, which is also how I identify myself as a Hindu, more as an ethnic or cultural Hindu than some religious Hindu. So a Hindu is anyone of the land of Hind, the original word that your people, the Iranians, gave to us the name Hindu. That is the definition of Hindu that Savarkar wanted Hindus to identify with. Like you can be of any religion you want. There's actually no Hindu religion. Vaishnavas, Shaivas, those are the individual religions.
okay? What is the definition of Hindutva in your opinion?
Hindutva means the right, the ideology that believes in the right of a Hindu ethnic state, just like the belief in the right of a Jewish ethnic state, like Israel. Not one where it's like
So,
complete like Nazi ethno nationalism, but like Zionism for the Hindus, what
so,
Zionism is trying to
so,
do for the Jews.
so Zionism believes in a nation state of Israel that gives equal rights to Jews and non-Jewish citizens of Israel. Does Hindutva believe in non-Hindu citizens of India as part of India with equal rights to them?
Yes, as long as they understand their cultural roots towards the Hindu civilization, not to the religion, but to the civilization, then we don't care about their religion.
What about
It's
no?
a
What about the ethnicity? Like, if you're non-Hindu ethnic wise and you're a citizen of India, do you consider these to be equal citizens of India?
Yes, if they are citizens of India, then they can be of any ethnicity they want. It's not even ethno nationalism. It's just that a nation that is like a Hindu, that is like a Hindu ethnic state in the same way Israel is a Jewish ethnic state, no more than that. Ethnic, like,
Well,
that's the main.
Israel is not an ethnic state because Israel gives equal rights to its non-Jewish citizens. I don't consider that to be an ethnic state. I do consider when they say Israel as a Jewish state, I consider it the thing that is I see like positive about Israel when it comes to its Jewishness. This is the Jewish culture and the fact that it's a refuge for Jews all around the world if they want to go to Israel to protect themselves from harm. So, for example, if India says that India is Hindu in the sense that if Hindus are being discriminated, they could come to India and we'll give them citizenship. And if they say like the official culture of our country is the Hindu culture, that would be equivalent to India. But if it says that this is a country for Hindus, then that would not be equivalent to Israel. That would be discrimination against non Hindu citizens. So if you're saying that it's equivalent to what we're saying in Israel, then I could support it. If it's not equivalent to what's in Israel, then I would not support it. I've seen some actions for some from so many people who say they're Hindutva, who suggest that it's not equivalent to Israel. But again, I'm not saying that they are the representative of what Hindutva is, right? So depending on whether or not the definition makes it something similar to Israel, I would support it or not. Does that make sense?
Yes, it is kind of the same thing. So Hindutva
Okay.
has been identified by many Israelis themselves as the Indian version of Zionism. It's Indian nationalism,
Yeah. I
and
just
it goes.
have seen some Hindutva people who would consider non-Hindu citizens of India not to be the enemy within, especially like the Muslims, for example, the enemy to be the enemy within.
No, no, no. The reason why we think that way is because many Indian
Oh,
like,
you
of
do?
course, no, many Hindus are genuinely against Muslims, but I'm not. It's just that many Indian Muslims support Pakistan more than India, and we're okay with Muslims, atheists, anyone, as long as they share loyalty towards India, not towards those who blatantly consider
So
themselves
here's the
enemies
thing.
of India, like Pakistan.
You know I'm anti-Islam, but I'm not anti-Muslim, right? I'm
Yes.
also against I'm also but I am against the Muslims who are more loyal to, for example, as Indian Muslim, if you're more loyal to Pakistan than India, I do agree with you that that's like traitorous behavior, like you're that is not a type of behavior that I endorse, right? If you're Indian, you should be loyal to India, right? Even if you are a Muslim. Every country has its own fair share of shitty people, and you should own them. You cannot be like, you're shitty, so you do not belong here, right? Like having people who with crap values is your country's responsibility to deal with bad citizens, just like every other country. You cannot just be like, well, you don't belong here. No, they do belong here. They're your mess, and you have to take responsibility for dealing with your mess, just like every other country does.
But we don't want people who are loyal to another country, that to a country that wants to destroy us, to live in our country and be having their ideology spread all around and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, like I'm sure like Americans don't want their, gang member American citizens. That's a problem for them. I'm pretty sure so many other countries have citizens that are not good citizens that would be better if they for the country if they were not part of the country, but they are part of the country, right? They are part of the country and you need to deal with that mess. It's the
Yes.
responsibility of the country to deal with the mess that they have. You cannot just put it under the carpet, right?
So how would you say that Israel would have to deal with the kind of Arabs and Muslims living in their country who are more loyal towards
Uh-huh.
the Islamic Republic of Iran or the Gaza Strip as
That's a
compared
good
to
question.
Israel?
That's a very complicated question. Okay. And it will take hours for us to go through it. But one thing they would not do is they do not strip them of their citizenship, right? So Arab Muslims who have Israeli citizenship, who are more loyal to so-called Palestine than Israel, what Israel doesn't do to them is they do not strip them of their citizenship.
That's what we Hindu nationalists want to do, but what do they
No,
do? Not
Israel
what they
Israel
don't
doesn't do
do.
that. Israel
What
doesn't
do
do
they
that.
do?
Israel has
What do
Israel has successfully given the best lives to its Muslim population, and over the years, it has the effect of increasing the sense of belonging and patriotism among Arab Muslim population of Israel. So the Arab
now,
Muslim population of the Israel is some of the least radical, even though we still have problems, like I don't deny that. But compared to other populations, they're some of the least radical ones and the most grateful to Israel. Like if you want to see a Muslim Arab population waving around the Israeli flag more than anywhere else, you go to the Arab Muslim population in Israel. So giving them equal rights, giving them best lives that they could imagine compared to any other Muslim and Arab country around the world, eventually has that effect.
Believe it or not, that's what the BJP is trying to do. They're actually a lot of times more loyal towards Indian Muslims and Indian Hindus, and that's clearly not working in our country. Pakistan is not like even Palestine. It was literally made for the sake of destroying India. It has no reason beyond that
Okay.
it exists as a country. So peace between these two countries can only happen if Pakistan integrates into India, because beyond hatred towards India, Pakistan has no other reason to exist in the first place. That's the reason we Indians actually don't want peace with them. Because then, if we no animosity, then why do they exist? They have no other reason to exist. Jinnah created them for the sake of hating on Hindus or for his own ego. That's the only reason Pakistan and
Yeah, I
Bangladesh
mean
exist.
Islam. Yeah, yeah. So again, Islam is an anti-Hindu religion, obviously, right? So you want to see me defending Islam, and even though I want to be tolerant towards Muslims, I will never, never advocate tolerance towards Islam. Islam is poison, right? And should always be fought
Agreed.
against. But I do believe that the way to fight Islam is not to be abusive to Muslims. In fact, that grows Islam. There are ways to make Muslims less Islamic. There are ways to make Muslims less Islamic. Okay, and if Muslims are involved, especially commerce and trade, and getting them involved in the economic process, believe it or not, even Muslims care more about wealth and making money more than Allah, as long as they have it. If they don't have it, they care about Allah more than money. Once they do have it, they start caring about money. So if you have trade and commerce between Hindus and Muslims, they start worshiping wealth more than they worship Allah. And that's how you
That sounds
create
like a
peace.
Marxist idea of the opium of the people, the Marxist idea. It sounds like that, what you're
That's the
saying.
least Marxist thing that's the most opposite of Marxism that I've ever said. Saying wealth and commerce, wealth generation is the solution, is the most anti-Marxist thing that somebody could ever say. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, but if you look at Bollywood, they only make fun of Hinduism, never any other religions. So Hindutva is there to fight against that. If you either you don't make fun
I
of any
don't like you're
religion
changing
or
a
you make fun of
topic.
them
Fuck
all.
well, fuck the leftism. That's leftism. That's leftism poison involved in Hollywood. So that's another topic that doesn't relate.
Okay,
So
and
I
we
wanted
just
to
want
Yeah,
to
I'm
go to
fight
the
gonna
against that
response.
I'm
and
gonna
fight for the
call
country.
Cook.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
Yeah, that was a good conversation, but we do have other people. Okay, Angel and then Susanna want to respond, and please, like 30 seconds each.
Yeah,
Well,
I was going
Suzanne,
to say,
she gets to do more. Yeah.
first, Israel being the Jewish state goes, yes, it's both culturally, Israel serves, is supposed to serve functionally as a functional repository for the world Jews, both ethnic and or religiously. But it's also the Jewish state, insofar as most Jews want to maintain a Jewish majority within Israel, which would to some extent make it a kind of ethno state, even if non-Jews do have equal rights.
Something I found very interesting some years ago when we were covering a story on Atheist Republic, I was studying about Indian Muslims who joined ISIS. And what I found so interesting is that scholars were talking about how, considering the number of Muslims that live in India, like the sheer number, there should have been more that went to go join ISIS. Like, there was a disproportionately small number of them that went to go join ISIS. So especially in comparison to other Muslim countries, they were disproportionately small. And so the scholars were basically saying, like, there is something different going on with these Indian Muslims in comparison to other, even specifically South Asian Muslim countries, there's something going on within their culture that is distinct from the other ones that causes them to join ISIS less. And they were kind of positing that there's been a certain syncretism with Indian ways of life, Hindu ways of life, and exposure to Hindu ways of life that predisposed them to be less likely to go join Islamist movements. Obviously, there's still a lot of problems with that in India. I would never dispute that. But I always found that very, very interesting that they were markedly different just in the sheer numbers. There should have been way more.
That's actually interesting. I wonder why.
Okay. Samantha and Jeffrey also want to respond, but please really quickly.
Yeah, saying you have to, honestly, saying you have to believe in God to be a Zionist is like saying you have to believe in Zeus to, believe Greece has a right to exist. Yeah, and also that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard, that, being pro-generational wealth is like a Marxist idea.
See? Yes, exactly. Okay.
Jeffrey?
Just going to say, I mean, there's other non-Muslim terrorist and separatist groups that attack India, like the Tamil Tigers, which oddly have organizational and operational ties with the PLO and Hamas. Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's-
nobody denied that they exist. If you're responding to Susanna, she's talking about numbers and percentages.
Not to Susanna, bro. Not to Susanna.
Okay, so I actually have to respond saying to Jeffrey, I understand that there's Dravidian separatist groups, the Tamil separatist groups. I'm actually a Tamil myself. That's actually my mother tongue. But the thing is, we're against every separatist group that tries to destroy India. I don't care what your religion is. It's not anti-Muslim bigotry. It's against any group of people. I didn't know that there's something called Tamil Tigers that exists. But all these separatist groups that destroy India's integrity, even the Khalistanis, the Dravidians, I'm against all of them. And Hindutva is just an ideology to keep intact India as a mostly cultural Hindu state. That doesn't mean you have to follow the ethnicity or the culture,
Yeah,
much as the religion, just the culture. We want a cultural identity for the country.
Tarun, if that is the definition, I will support it. Okay. I've seen some other Hindutva doing some other things that I do not support, but if that's the definition, I will support that.